My name is Peter Schroth. I have done a lot of different things in my life, and I don't want to be one thing. I don't, and I'm curious what the next step is going to be, and what maybe I do become something else again. Um, I just look back on some of the jobs that I've had, and it's always an exploration. Like, all right, what's this next step? What are we going to learn here? So I don't know that I am any one thing. I don't really want to be one thing. Along the way, just very supportive parents taking us growing up, art museums, symphony, orchestra, exposing us to as much as possible. Um, Traveled a lot. Both my parents are German, so we traveled a lot to Germany in the summers. So really just culture was very important to them. So we got a lot of that. And then through school, through high school, stayed creative. College, University of Georgia, was an art major there in sculpture. Um, Tried for graphic design, but I think they saw right through me. Like, yeah, you don't belong here. And ended up down in the sculpture department and uh, loved it there. They did a lot of stone carving, marble carving, and printmaking. I loved that, but it was really the focus was sculpture. And then after that, I think I took a year off and wanted to see if I'm not in the school setting, will I still make art, or do I need to suck it up and get the job? And in that year, I did make art. I made some commission work, and I did stay busy. I actually got in a gallery in Atlanta. So it's like, all right, so I need to keep going with this. And came here to Greensboro, UNCG, for my master's, also in sculpture. At the time, I thought I would continue stone carving. They were going to build that program, but that didn't happen then. I don't know that it's happened yet. So I had to shift gears, and I started working a lot with concrete, making these ridiculously large and heavy and cumbersome forms that just always looked like they were about to fall apart and maybe fall on you. But that's kind of what I focused on there. And then I left there, got my master's, and I taught a little bit downtown, taught art a little bit, then found Jim Gallucci, local sculptor, and worked for him for years as a welder, helping him basically going from blueprint to the final product. And I love that. That was building things on that scale was eye-opening for sure. Kept doing that, and then kind of looked at my master's degree as like, all right, what am I gonna do? And my wife and I kind of stumbled upon a building in downtown Greensboro, and another fellow sculptor from the MFA program, Fiorenzo Baradozzi, he and I kept renovating the space in hopes that someone would move in there. There was a commercial space on Elm Street, and we couldn't find anyone. People would say they were going to rent it, and then they'd back out. And all the while, Fiorenzo and I are swinging hammers, building this space. And every time we wanted coffee, we had to go to Tate Street from downtown. And like, this is ridiculous. We should be able to get coffee downtown. We should open a coffee shop. And at that time, coffee shop basically served as a vehicle for me to hang art on the walls and to have bands. Those were that I like coffee and I drank a lot of it, but to me it was like, all right, whose art can we get to hang on these walls? And I was amazed. We reached out to artists on the West Coast, all over the place, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. Logan Hicks, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an unbelievable stencil artist. insane stencil artist. We reached out to him, and he put together a whole show of West Coast artists. And we had Shepard Fairey way back. And it was like, I still have one of the pieces hanging in the dining room. It's like, I can't believe some of the work that he sent to us. And some of those artists have just blown up. And it's really cool. The art community is just so open to other artists. I don't ever feel like there's this competition. It's like, hey, I've got a space. I want to show work. Do you want to show your work? Of course, I want to show my work. And it just kind of happens. So did that for a long time, and then took the band thing a little bit further with a larger space, the Flying Anvil. And it turns out anvils do not fly. And that we ended up shutting that down, I think after 8 or 9 months, but we had a ton of fun along the way. And thought in that time, I kind of stepped away from the green bean and eventually sold it to the manager. And I was like, all right, it's time to hit the reset button. And moved out to the country for a while, had some goats and chickens and babies. And then Scott Avett called from the Avett Brothers and said, can you do lights? Can you do rock and roll light show? I was like, absolutely, I can do that. And I had never done that before in my life. But after the Anvil, it was kind of a low point, so we needed something to get the juices flowing again. So for a long time, 11 years, that was my creative outlet, was lighting. And I think coming from a sculpture background, that helped a lot. I would come across other lighting designers that came through theater or were more trained in what they were doing. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, this is strange, your approach. But I think it was because A, no one taught me how to do it. And B, I was treating the band on stage was the sculpture and I had to light it. And how do you do that? So that's just always how I looked at it, and still do. So I've been with them 11 years now. And of course, with COVID, it's all come to a screeching halt, which has been good and bad. It's given me this studio time. It's given me more time home with the family and off the road. It's given me more time to think through a lot of things and where do I want this creative process to take me. So here I sit in my studio. Was just painting before we picked up the interview, so staying busy. Influences are tough for me because it's so incredibly broad that there are artists that have influenced me. Bruce Nauman was a big influence early on. Chris Burden was a huge influence early on. Making art that threatened you. I loved that idea. So I took a lot from Chris Burden. But then I think bigger than any artist that influenced me, I think music really did. Throughout undergraduate years, all of my friends were musicians except me. And I kind of sat in the room and wrote bad poetry and did a lot of paintings and attempted the Great American Novel and that kind of thing. But it never like, I should pick up a guitar. Like that never, it just didn't occur to me. It was always more about the visual art and like, hey, let me make your album cover. Let me, let's make a video or something like that. I just was not a musician, but my appreciation for music, do not take it away from me, because I sit here and paint and a song comes on and it's like, oh God, now this painting is going to go in a totally different direction. So I gotta be careful what I listen to depending on what I want to paint. But so really music's been huge, and that means everything from Pavarotti. My mom drilled Luciano Pavarotti into us as children. We woke up Saturday mornings to that just blasting through the stereo in the house. Uh, from him, the Frank Sinatra to, I listened to a lot of punk growing up. Um, the Clash, the Pixies. Um, yeah, I really think music is a larger influence for me than artists. A single lyric that is from a she had 53 miles to go. That's just one line from a Frank Black song that he's talking about a flood that's just mile by mile destroying things in its path, and it had 53 miles more to go. Just things like that is like, man, that's, what do you do with that? So, yeah, just taking that. So Greensboro was a 2-year plan to come up, grab the MFA, and then become a big world famous artist in New York City, which many of us learned that's just not quite how that works. But while I was here, down on Tate Street, there's a romantic little place called New York Pizza that we went to all the time, and live music all the time down there. So continued on that path that I was on and met a girl there. And after graduate school, just stayed with her, stayed here, and we are still together. New York Pizza worked its magic, and yeah, I'm very, actually very happy here. It's allowed me. I think I was lucky at the time that we did the Green Bean. I remember coming downtown while I was in graduate school on my bike and literally riding it down the middle of Elm Street, uninhibited, uh, not a car to deal with. Um, so there was this kind of uh, energy there for potential, and just happened to be there at the right time, and we were able to buy that building, and then things just started happening. So, and of course now Greensboro is a completely different place. And the trick is that working with the band, I haven't been here, and it's every time I've come back, it's changed and changed. I have yet to attend a single folk festival. I've missed them all, and people are always talking about how amazing it is and how much fun they had. And I'm like, yeah, I've never been to one. Somehow I've missed them all. And now I'm here, and it's virtual, which is cool. And everyone should watch those performances online. That's pretty amazing. I have started a new business while we've been here in quarantine. Um, so it's called Mega Mega Mega. It's at megamegamega.net. It's a mouthful. Um, but the idea there was just, I had an art show lined up, and then COVID hit. And you know, it was a very conscious decision. I'd say 2 years ago, I was like, all right, I need to go full scale back into art. I need this has to happen. It's part of me, and it's killing me not to do it. So did it, worked towards the art show, got the art show. COVID hit, art show was gone. Then all these artists that I follow on Instagram and online, I'm just watching the same story happen over and over again. Everybody's shows are getting canceled, and we're all just sitting here with paintings. So it's like, well, we can still have a show. We'll just do it in an online gallery. And there again, reaching out just through Instagram. I really like that painting. I wonder if they'd be willing to show. And just reaching out that way through email or Instagram message. And people would jump on board. They don't know me. They don't know, It's just like, yeah, I would love to. Let's do it. and we'll see how many artists we can gather up. So it's been good. It's been going really well. I've got some amazing artists that I can't believe like I get to virtually hang my painting next to theirs, you know, and I'm loving it. And that's one of my primary goals, is really to grow that and see where we can take it. As far as my own work goes right now, the paintings I was doing pre-COVID were all kind of about memory and how I have a absolutely horrible memory, and I remember things wrong. In college, I attended a Fugazi show, and there was something that happened in that show. I had a back and forth with the singer, and I told that story for years, that he made me apologize before the band would continue to play. And that's how I remembered it. And then a few years back, they came out and online. It was like, we've recorded every show we've ever played. So I found that show and I was listening to it. And that's not at all how it went down. He was apologizing very sarcastically to me. I was like, all right, so that's just a small example. I've spent years remembering something false. How many other things have I done that with? So I started, how can I play with that idea? And what I found is I started digging through photographs and kind of tweaking them, taking one character out of the photograph or simplifying something to a point and maybe giving more detail to something else that seems random, but that's kind of how our memories work. Like you might remember there was a green pencil on the table, but you don't remember the conversation. So I was playing with that idea, and my poor memory is frightening to me. I don't know where it's gonna go, but so I kept playing with that idea, and then COVID hit, and I didn't make art for weeks, maybe even 2 months. I was just like, all right, we're suddenly in a completely different world. So all of us, I think, started reevaluating our hierarchy of what things are important and whatnot. And then COVID turned into a political issue, and that whole thing got even more heated. And I'm somewhat in flux right now with what kind of art do you make right now? Like what, So I'm kind of working through that canvas by canvas. I can make a really angry painting just to get things out, or I'm working on one that's behind you here that it's trying to be playful, but it is angry, but it's playful and it's pretty colors and stuff like that. But we'll see where it goes. But yeah, there was just a definite shift. It was like, all right, those paintings aren't going to work for me anymore right now. That's not where my heart is. So I got to realign and figure out where it's going to go. So the Avett Brothers played at the Green Bean. It was our first paid show. It was, see, here's my memory. It was either $2 or $3. It was one of those two. It was dirt cheap and it was sold out. And I reluctantly booked them. I had many times I would have people say, hey man, you got to get this band. You got to get this band. They're amazing. And they're the next big thing. You got to get them. And I would get them. And it would be that guy that told me to get them and like two other people that were there for coffee. And that was it. And that happened again and again and again. And that's fine. It's all good. That's fun. So same thing with the Avett Brothers. I had two guys telling me, man, you got to get them. Or a guy and a girl, you got to get them. They're unbelievable. So I checked them out a little bit. I was like, pretty, yeah, I could dig that. And I booked them and it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And I was like, all right, I need to I need to keep up with these guys. And my wife at the time had a, or still does, textile business. She prints digital textile printing. So when they needed a backdrop, she started getting those gigs with them, and kept doing that through the years. And I had booked them at the Green Bean. So then when we did the Flying Anvil, it was like, hey man, y'all want to do the grand opening? Yeah. So we went from capacity of 99 to capacity of, I think, 750. And then the next time they were coming around, they're like, Pete, we want to play again, but where can we play? And we put them at War Memorial. So anytime they wanted to come to Greensboro, they would call on me to book them, because that's how they operate. Like once you've booked them, then Pete is Greensboro. If we go to Greensboro, we call Pete. And all the while Ann is making their backdrops. And all the while I kept telling them, hey man, I would rather be on your side of the business than on this side of the business. You know, the promoting side is fun, but it's not creative really. It's, in my opinion. And then the Flying Anvil failed, and that was, music venue honestly was a dream, and the dream came true, and then the dream burned in the most horrible way possible. And it was those were dark days, just to be honest with you. It was that was really tough to get past. And with my wife's help and some friends' help, we did get past it. And in the middle of all that, Scott Avett called my wife and said, hey, we want to offer Pete a job, but he won't be home a lot. We'll be on the road. And she's like, take him. He's miserable. You can have him. So I went, and their dad took me to the airport to catch up with them on tour. And my dad happened to be in Phoenix, Arizona, and picked me up. So like both our dads were immediately involved. And I caught up with them, and they were opening for Dave Matthews Band. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just really needed a job. So did, for honestly the first year or two, just nerves, terrible nerves, trying to figure it out. But luckily I was growing as they were growing. And we'd play a theater, and you'd walk in, you'd look at the lighting console they have and what lights they have. It's like, all right, how do we turn that into something? Because some places had, no lie, 3 lights, and some places had, state-of-the-art stuff. I was like, okay, how do we do this? So I was just figuring that out in my own sculpture way. And yeah, and then just keep bringing, over the years, them growing, me growing, figuring it out, growing with them. And the crew got bigger, everything got bigger, and the shows got bigger, the lighting designs got bigger. And yeah, now it's just part of me. It's just part of the thing, the deal. The struggles are, and they have become, I have realized maybe in the last 2 weeks, they've now become part of the process. I've had paintings in here that are done, and I was very happy with them, but I will look at them, I'll be flipping, and I'll see one and be like, that is horrible. That is horrible. I hope no one's seen that yet. And I'll destroy it. The one I'm working on right now, there's probably like 5% of the original painting still there. And I thought it was great. And I've destroyed it. And I'm rebuilding on top of it. But when I look around, some of my favorite current paintings have paintings underneath them that I thought were great. And I suppose they were necessary. They were a stepping stone. Um, so that has been part of it. But then, so that's part of the struggle. But then there's also, okay, well, right now I think that one's really good. Am I going to think it's really good in a month? Am I just going to keep destroying that same painting over and over? But some of them you get to a point and you're like, that, all right, I'm going to leave that alone. I don't want to touch that one anymore. And hopefully it finds a home and it goes away before I can slash into it again. But so I think it's probably normal that a lot of artists would have self-doubt and you know, how much paint did I just waste on that canvas, and you know, that kind of thing. And but it's not wasted paint. It's, you can't see that one color anymore, but it's under there, and it led me to this one, and it's all part of the process, I suppose, and just trying to figure it out. Keep going, keep going. My day, Monday through Friday, with COVID, I've found a new job to kind of carry me through, and that's working with a buddy who's got a company called This Old Punk, and it's play off of This Old House. But it's basically remodels, renovations, things like that. So I'm literally swinging the hammer. We're building a deck right now. We got another deck to build next week. So that's kind of the 9 to 5. But I will wake up at 6 or 5:30, somewhere around there, and do my breakfast, sit down, work on the gallery, contact artists, see if they want to join up, or write up a feature on the existing artists we have, do the Instagram thing, social media thing, all that. Try to grow that gallery, and then head off to the job, do that, come back. Not painting during the week as much as I would like to, but then the weekends definitely still get up 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Try to get some time in the studio, unless there's a Formula One race on, and then that kind of hijacks me. But yeah, the weekends have, I guess I'm the weekend warrior when it comes to paintings now. But any free moment I can get, I will come back here and you know, at least try to get a color down, move some paint around, sketch, anything. I've got that. I mean, that's nothing. I gotta put some paint on something. So I'll literally, that like that will, I'll get agitated, you know, if you don't get out some creativity. So I'll do that. And yeah, just keep it going. And then you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe that color I used there is like, oh, wait a minute, that would make sense right there. So you kind of come back here and invite accidents to happen. But yeah, that's kind of the day. I'm pretty tame as far as my night time goes. I'm in bed by like 9:30. So yeah, that's the deal. I had this discussion a long time ago with a friend of mine, and he, and I still believe this, if you look at the great civilizations that we know, the Egyptians and the Romans, and the things that we know about them, we know vastly because of their art. And I'm in no way claiming that what I'm doing back here in my studio is going to inform any future civilizations about our greatness. But it's to me, it's just human, right? I mean, even cave paintings, we were doing it then before we even had a language. So I don't know that we make music and it makes us happy. We make someone sees a painting. I will finish, I'll work on a painting, and then I'll step back and just laugh, you know. because I don't, what is that? Where is that coming from? There's like you get a joy from it. Um, so I don't know. I think it's something within us that we've done from the get go. It just, we keep doing it, and you can't question it too much, which I do from time to time. But then talking to fellow artists, it's like, no, man, you just got to keep moving the paintbrush. Don't go down that road of why, because it leads to a dark place. You look at, I've got this wall of all these tubes of paint. I'm like, what? What have I done? I could have bought a jet ski or something.